environments is basically my career autobiography and how I maneuvered being in different environments that were toxic and dealing with different people who were toxic. One of the lessons that I teach in my book is you have to separate the person from the behavior. So people say, oh, this person is toxic, right? But they can change. So we want to make sure that, one thing, we separate the people from the behavior, because even though the people in the book that I'm talking about exhibited toxic behavior, that might have been with me at that time. You might be them today, and they might not have that behavior. But you might not ever meet that person, but I guarantee you, the behavior that I experienced, you have seen in other ways. And so that's what I'm teaching in the book, how it's me, not you, how to survive toxic work environments. And so it was basically a reflection for me to write that book. So you're going basically on a journey with me as I go from the different careers that I had in different industries, different positions. So for instance, I had a job where I was working in a PR agency and didn't really realize that it was toxic until it reached a moment where I was fed up and I had to cut it off. I've also worked in retail, the same thing. Also worked in sports management, as well as I dibbled and dabbled in modeling in the same reason. And then I moved on to the job that basically takes up the majority of the book, where I reached one of my lowest points. At the time, I was experiencing a lot of different experiences that left me stressed out. I was depressed when I came to work, really depressed in general. It had me second guessing my movements, my intelligence, what I could bring. When I come to work, I want to do my best. When I was getting to work, I was dreading coming to work. I was supposed to be there at like 8:30. I was coming in at 10:30 because I just didn't want to come. Because I was tired of people just dumping on me and telling me that I wasn't doing this, and they're projecting all different types of behaviors on me that I'm like, this is not really me. And it began to a point where it just really took me down, and it really messed with my mental health. And so when we talk about toxic work environments, toxic really means that a place where the environment is detrimental, where it's not helping you to grow, where it's negative. Some people say, oh, I'm in a toxic environment because these people are difficult. That's just people being difficult. That's not toxic, right? A place where it's stunting your growth, it's not allowing you to grow, and it's affecting how you move and your full mental well-being. And one thing that I realized with writing the book and going through those situations, I was reflecting. And what the reflection was showing me was that what was the commonality, the common denominator in those different toxic environments? And it was me. And what I mean by me, it was what I was contributing. So if I was down and I was depressed, why was I depressed? When I was at the sports agency, or the sports and entertainment agency, which was like one of my dream jobs, I didn't realize that it was toxic. But when I was doing the modeling, I didn't realize it was toxic. It wasn't until I got to that main job that I realized, wow, it's because a lot of times we are going through toxic situations. We're not identifying it as toxic because we're so enthralled with the dream of what it potentially could be. And so we're not dealing with that. So when I was in that sports and entertainment agency, when I was in that modeling agency, sometimes toxicity is not about the pain that you feel. It could also be the disappointment. And for me, I was realizing when I was in those two different jobs, the disappointment was it didn't turn out the way that I had dreamed it would be. It was the dream job that I wanted, but the outcome wasn't what I wanted it to be. So that began to just build on top of each other. So that when I get to this other environment that I mostly talk about in the book, and I'm experiencing this different behaviors, I know like this is not what a job is supposed to be. And what was happening was because those disappointments were building up and I hadn't addressed those. I hadn't really healed or dealt with those. Then when I got to this job, then I was understanding the reason some of these things are happening is because I wasn't communicating very well. Why was I communicating very well? Because when I was here at the sports agency, I didn't want to mess that up. When I saw that things were wrong and I knew like there's tons of people waiting to get this job, I'm not going to mess that up. I'm not going to say anything. And so when you continuously overlook those different things, you get to a point where you reach your bottom point and you realize, I didn't deal with that. Because if I knew how to communicate, I could have maneuvered better in this environment that really was toxic with different behaviors coming in. And so what I want to talk to you today is about the mirror moment. So a lot of times we're in environments and we're in relationships and we're dealing with people and we say it's them. And we may pray and say, God, fix this situation. But he's really saying, okay, if I fix the situation is fixed, but you're not. So how's the situation going to change if you're not ready for that situation to be changed? Because if I change the situation and you're not changed, it's the same thing happening over again. And so what I realized through this process, that what the mistakes that I was making. I wasn't a good communicator. At that time, I'm a great manager now, as people tell me. But at that time, I was a lousy manager. I avoided conflict at every situation. I didn't tell people what I expected of them. I didn't hold them accountable because I just didn't want to have that back and forth situation. I didn't want to make anybody mad because I'm thinking about when I was at that sports agency and modeling, you speak up and you say the wrong thing and the wrong person the wrong day, they might say, okay, we don't need you. You can go. But I wanted to hold on to that job and hold on to that dream. So I wanted to read a scripture that talks about the mirror moment. It's James 1:23 through 25. And it says, for if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away, and at once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, in the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing. And I wanted to bring that to attention because that is the mirror moment, the time where we are asking God to change our situation, but he's saying, before I can change that situation, we need to change you. And when I was looking in that mirror, what that mirror, and actually, I think we're going to do this. I brought some mirrors for y'all. Yes.
Good thing I watched your face.
Yeah. And so I want you to think about a time where you were in an environment or in a situation, and when you looked in that mirror, what did you see? Because when I was at that lowest point at that job, all these things were coming down. When I looked in the mirror, I saw defeat. And when I saw defeat, I was thinking, if I see defeat, why am I defeated? I'm defeated because I'm letting other people project what they want me to be onto me. Why am I letting those people project that? And just started going back and forth as far as like winding it down, letting them project that into me because there was insecurities in myself. There was confidence that I was lacking. I wasn't sure. I didn't know how to step into authority and really claim who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. And also, I wasn't protecting my peace. I wasn't saying, these are the boundaries of how you can treat me. These are the boundaries of what I'm going to do in order to get somewhere. And so that's what I saw. So I want you all to look into the mirror and think, what do you see? What do you see now? Or think about a time when you were in a bad situation. What did you see at that point? Anybody?
I see growth.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I see someone that has struggled in the past with some of those things.
Yeah.
With a lot of those things. And someone who has grown into a leader and a person that is able to recognize that and be better in my current environment.
Good. Anybody else want to share? Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's always a positive reflection if you think about it.
Uh-huh.
You know where you've been, you know where you want to go, and you gotta check every time as you're moving forward in that journey. That's what I found. And over the course of time, you grow at each step. Success isn't the final destination success is moving along the steps of the journey. And that's what I've found has helped me to reflect back, to look at myself and say, what do I need to do to get myself better? Just like you.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't check yourself, you're gonna acquiesce, like you said, to these words coming from you from outside sources.
Absolutely.
They're not valid.
Right.
You're the one in charge.
Right. Right.
I think for me, when I look in the mirror, especially when I'm having either a bad day or business is not going right, I think about the successes I've had in the past, and I look in the mirror and say, "Hey, I can do it. I can do it."
Yes.
So that drives me.
Yeah.
It's good to look in the mirror and just see not what's not going correctly is one of the good things you've done in the past.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's what happened to me is that when I was at that moment, and I'm telling you, there were so many things that were happening at that last job. And I went to this prayer conference. When I went to the prayer conference, I felt like I was literally the only person in that room because the message was talking about this person. If you're in an environment and it's hard, but what was really hard was they were talking about the scripture when it says you have to pray for those who despitefully use you. And I was like, why am I doing that, right? Why am I praying for them? I want you to get them, God, right? They're using me. But they were talking about praying for those who despitefully use you. Also, when someone hits you on the cheek, what are you supposed to do? Turn to him the other cheek. And I'm like, why am I doing that? And so it goes back to the scripture that I read earlier about just not hearing the word, but being doers of the word. And so I really took that scripture in mind. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to have to pray for these people. I'm going to have to pray for them to make sure that, to say, God, heal them whatever they're doing, because we do know that hurt people hurt people. And clearly there was something wrong with them that they didn't want to treat someone this way. But I also had to take the power back myself and realize I can't control the environment. I can't control other people, but I can control myself. And in controlling myself, if I allow people to project negative things that I know when I look in the mirror, like I'm defeated, but I know that I'm not defeated. Because God said he's already defeated, right? Everybody, the devil is already defeated. And that no weapon comes against us shall ever prosper. So why am I seeing defeat in the mirror? That means it's me. It's me. And so I adopted the phrase, it's me, not you, because it was my way of saying and checking myself and saying, you know what, when I'm in these situations, I can't control them, but I can control how I react. I can control how I think. And not only did I adopt it, but the office began to adopt it. We had people come in and they were doing all types of off-the-wall things, and that was our way to say, let's not engage in that negative behavior. It's me, not you. That was our way of dismissing ourselves from that situation. And that's what that mirror moment is about. It's saying, this situation needs to change, but God, what inside of me do I need to work on? What is this revealing to me? And so 3 things that happens when you are reflecting on that, and that is, 1, God is going to make sure that he tells you the conditions of your heart. So what's in your heart that you need to work on? For me, it was the insecurity. That was the backbone of everything the foundation of everything that was happening, why I had bad communication. Because I was insecure in my authority. I was insecure of what I could be. I didn't want to disrupt anything because I didn't want to lose my job based on those previous jobs I had that I hadn't dealt or healed from. And I was doing a talk with some ladies, and we were just sharing their different experiences in the workplace and toxic. And one lady said, for me, it's bitterness. I cannot forgive people who treat me badly. And so it's like you will never get anywhere if you harbor that bitterness, because what you're doing is you're giving the person or the other people the power to control how you act. Another one is not only the conditions of your heart, but you reveal response patterns. What I was realizing too was in these interactions with toxicity, it was like a tug of war. They say something to me, I say something back. And we're going back and forth. We're not getting anywhere if we just do a tug of war. We're going back and forth. So how are we responding? Are we acting through faith, or are we acting through our flesh? We have to, in those situations when we have or experiencing toxic environments or toxic behaviors, we have to be proactive. So what I learned is that when there's someone there and they're not giving me, or they're giving me that toxicity, 1, I need expectations for you. Here's my expectations. If you don't meet those expectations, I've already told you, here's my expectations. These are repercussions that happen if I don't get those expectations. And I make sure that I communicate. Before they'll do something, I wasn't saying anything. And it just built up. It kept going and kept going until I felt like breaking. And then I'd say something. That's not fair to the other person. Because even though they've done something wrong, some people don't know when they're doing things wrong because they have just always done that their entire life. So in order to protect who I was and protect my peace and regain the power that I had to learn to let that know. If somebody did something I didn't like, let me tell you the first time. Hey, I didn't like that. Let me tell you why I didn't like that. And give them the chance to correct that, right? And so those are some of the things that you want to do and be cognizant of when you're dealing in those behaviors, in those environments, is how are you responding to them? Are you being fair, and how are you responding proactively and telling them up front, telling them when something is done wrong, telling them when they've done something that made you uncomfortable, instead of letting it fester and then just breaking down, going off on people, right? And the last thing is knowing your assignment in that particular toxicity. And what I mean by that is knowing your assignment. Are you there? Is God using this as a way to build your character? Or is this, your assignment is to get out of there? Is it for me to escape, or is it for me to shift the environment that I'm in? And so that comes with like journaling and praying and asking God, am I supposed to be getting a lesson out of this? Because for me, it was getting a lesson out of it. Because had I not been in that situation, I never would have been able to look in the mirror and say, girl, you are not the best manager. This is not happening. But I was able to correct myself and learn the different things, but it also built my character. So now where I can go, and I've been on different jobs and been in different community organizations where I've led people who are vice presidents, who are presidents of it, and they're like, hey, anything you do, you let me know. I like working for you, right? But I wouldn't have gotten to that moment if I hadn't had to go through that toxicity, to where it revealed to me that there's some things that needs to happen in you so that you can be able to move into who God has planned for you to be. Because we have a desire that He placed in our heart. He has a purpose for each and every one of us. But we can't fulfill that purpose. We can't operate as our best selves if we are feeling defeated. If we are letting what other people do affect how we are. And so I tell people that when you operate as your best self, that means who God created you to do. Everybody has their own lane, has their own gifts, has their own touch on how they do things. But when you operate in that level of who you are, you're untouchable. You're unmatched because you were created to do a specific thing. And when you are able to create and do what you're supposed to do, you're unmatched because God has created you just to do that thing. But if you allow outside forces to come and tell you that you're defeated, come and tell you that you're not good enough, or try to block you, then you're not able to do what God has created you to do. And you always want to operate in that method, in that lane where you're unmatched, because it's not about you, really. It's about what you're supposed to be doing and who's assigned to your life that you're supposed to help. And so that it's me, not you, helps you to reflect and say, you know what, when I'm in situations that's blocking me from being my best self, I need to concentrate on me to figure out what have I taken accountability for what I've done. Not to say that the environment is messed up. The environment is messed up in a lot of different places. And again, you can't control that. You have to control how you respond to that, how you act, and look inside. What's in your heart that might be causing you to act that way, or might have caused you to feel or look in the mirror and say, oh my God, I look defeated. Well, back that up. Why are you defeated? And then just go from there and fix those things. And just kind of think about and be aware and cognizant of the different relationships, whether you are in a personal relationship, that includes friends, that includes family. There are a lot of people who suffer from toxic family relationships that affect who they are to this day. So begin to look at those relationships, even social relationships, and organizations that you're involved in, and to make sure that if there's any part that is stunting that growth, where there's an environment where it's not set up for you to grow, where people are projecting things that you know that you're not, start to deal with that so that it doesn't compile and affect you later on when you get to the point where you are, broken down and you don't know what to do. And And so for me, it was going to that conference and hearing that, and then after that, I started getting confirmations from my friend. I talked to my friend, and she's one of those where I call it, you have like some friends that are about it. So she was just like, oh no, what are they doing to you? No, you were this, you were that, you were valuable, and she's reinforcing. So everything that they were taking away from me, she was instilling that and saying, no, you were this, you were that, you were greater than that. So you go in there and you tell them and you show them who you are. And if if they don't accept that, you let me know. I'll come down there and I'll tell them. And so it's really too surrounding yourself with people who can help you and confirm to you who you are when you look in the mirror. So I want to leave you with a call to action just to make sure that as you go on through different things and different environments and different situations and different relationships, you always ask God, what is this revealing to me? What is this revealing to me? When there's different negativity things that come up, God, what is this revealing to me? And then also, what is my role? Do I need to confess? Do I need to